This part was originally more than an hour long, and I'm not doing a chapter an hour long. So basically, I'm just going to get the format here. You, Senjuro, Rengoku's brother, and Rengoku spend time together, and yeah, that's basically really it. You also train, and oh my god, basically that's it. But anyways, let's get on. What did you told Kojiro next? He didn't hear. He was too loyed in your glittering eyes and your cute expression to even pay attention to what you were saying. Indeed, he felt more at ease knowing his true feelings. But it was also a pretty tense and awkward situation. You just couldn't see things how you used to. Once you are aware of something, your eyes are open. And this time, he didn't saw you as just a nice, kind friend. He saw you as a woman he fell head over heels. First person PV. I've fallen in love with you, yandere. His words made me stop saying whatever I was telling Kojiro-san. I took a few seconds to process his words and find the most concerted, appropriate answer I could think of in this situation, such as one. What are you saying, Kojiro-san? Yes. Not the best response? Yin, Hanua. I like you. Rengoku, older son, repeated, holding my hands and looking at me with great determination and seriousness. I am greatly, deeply, and grandly in love with you. You are a blazing flame in my heart, the sun of my days and the moon to my nights. I love you. His words, they were different from the same words that Tanjiro used to tell me every day. Words that used to flatter me, and now were nothing but empty, plain, insignificant chants to me. Kojiro, I mustered under my breath, not even once breaking eye contact with him. How could a man I met make my heart melt like nothing? I knew that the flame that both Tanjiro and I ignited was slowly dying, but I maintained bond, and the red and eyes sewn together was, one way or another, keeping us both, Tanjiro and I, united. I smiled sadly at the flame pillar, holding his hands and softly pushing them onto the ground. Kojiro's smile seemed to fade slightly. His eyebrows tilted, making his eyes look sad and empty. I finally spoke. I'm sorry. If you don't love me back, don't force yourself to answer. He smiled, speaking in his usual loud and friendly tone. Yet, it felt sad. But I'd like to know if you would consider my feelings someday. No, you couldn't. I can't. Even if I wanted to, I can't. God, why did I do such a stupid thing back then? If only I knew. I tried to speak, but what could I tell him? I don't know. Do you need time to process my confession? Kojiro asked worriedly. I'll patiently wait for an answer. Don't worry. I can leave right now if you need some time alone. No! I shouted, soon covering my mouth. I looked away, uncovering my mouth slowly and guiltily. I don't need to process nor rethink anything, because the answer has always been clear. I'm already engaged. You're not the issue here. It's me. What if you weren't engaged? What if you weren't tied to someone? He said, a small glint of hope shining in his eyes. Would you accept my feelings then? Would you love me back? It seems I do love you. But after being with Tanjo and after having a platonic past with Zenitsu, I now start to question, what is love? How does a person honestly show their love to their partner? Does it really have to be through intimacy? Can love be simple yet wonderful, like a walk through a firefly-filled forest? Or is it via fate, like a letter fluttering by until it eventually finds its way to their designed person? How do people know they love someone? There have been many who claim to be in love, but the love they show is bizarre, nor loving. Some may even discern the words. Mother never really showed love to Katamaru. Not even once. It was all fights, profanities, bickering, and even violence. Tatsuya used to protect me from Mother and Katsuruma's fights, both of us hiding away from them in a secret compartment in Tatsuya's room, the same room that would later lead me to the empyreal freedom. The freedom of my mother that the one time still haunts me to this day. Blood trailing down her head, staining her clothes and dripping on the floor. That wicked grin on her face as she, with a mocking, amused tone, said to me, "Look what your father did to me. So far, I've never seen nor experienced love. Not like you can experience anything you know nothing of." "I see," Kojo hummed, getting me out of my thoughts. "I shall respect your decisions, Yin-san. Don't worry. I will forget about tonight so we don't be uneasy tomorrow morning. I would hate myself if I make you uncomfortable." I looked down, saddened. "Thank you. But if you ever happen to return my feelings, don't hesitate to tell me. For my heart and I will always accept you gladly," Kojo said, kissing my hands one last time before getting on his feet and walking towards the exit of the room. "Sleep well, Hanoa-chan." "You too, Kojo-san," I said, in almost a whisper, watching the man slide the door close behind him. I don't know why I felt so bad. This is my first time rejecting someone. It's supposed to only affect the party, not the host. So why? Why am I crying so hopelessly right now? It was the final day. Kojo felt extremely stupid for confessing his feelings that night before. Now, not only he had to deal with the rejection, but with your departure as well. If only he didn't rush things, he thought. Maybe he could have made up and make his illusion with a less awkward. You packed everything you needed and a drawing that Senjiro made for you. The appetite, at the dining room was a little heavy. Senjiro and Shinjiro managed to catch an earful at Kojiro's confession, so of course they knew why your relationship with Kojiro was so tense. "I'll miss you a lot, Hanoa-san," Senjiro said, trying to make some conversation. "I'll miss you too, Senjiro dear." You smiled back, a little tiredly. The kitchen door slid open, Kanata standing there awkwardly. "Everything is ready, Hanoa-sama. Shinagawa's crow arrived and is ready to guide us to Shinagawa-san's estate." "Very well," you hummed, bowing. You set your empty bowl aside and stood on your feet, looking at everyone. "I must excuse myself. Thank you for your hospitality and your guidings." "Do you want us to escort you to the entrance?" Senjiro asked, but his father's hand on his shoulder abruptly silenced him. Senjiro looked at his father. Father? Take care on your own way there." Rengoku, his father, spoke, looking at you. I will. Thank you. You bowed before leaving the dining room in silence. As you were putting on your shoes, your mind kept going back to the conversation yesterday night. The sincereness in his tone, the honesty and pure innocence and fireness in his eyes. But most of all, his shaking hands. It wasn't an eager, joyous type of quiver. You could feel his nervousness, his uncertainty, his fear. Why was he so afraid? Did he thought that you were going to run away from his feelings? Or that you would hate him for committing the sin of envy against Hanjo's fiancé? How could it be a sin if Kojo never did it with ill mind? Should gods punish those who commit a sin without knowing what a sin truly is? Should you, despite Kojo, a simple, kind-hearted man who bear no ill will? This is confusing. You mutter under your breath, standing up and walking out the door. Your left foot stumbled and you tilted backwards. Kojo caught you, holding you by your shoulders and helping you stand up again. You glanced at him. He smiled awkwardly, almost flattening his lips. The ground must like you a lot. Thank you, you shyly said. You will come visit us, right? Kojo asked, more like a plea. Senjo really got attached to you, and Father won't mind having you around again, so... Don't worry. I'll promise I'll come visit you three. You smiled, sadly. You then wickedly waved your hand at him. Until next time, Kojo-san. Kojo watched you leave, your haori flowing with each step you took, though you were still a couple feet away from him. It was as if you were almost gone, so far from him. His right arm folded, lifting his hand dimly. He wanted to stop you, to hold your hand once again and tell you to stay with him longer, to be with him longer, to love him. With great pain, he lowered his hand and sighed with dread, finally giving in to the seemingly unchangeable fate and watching you leave, taking away a part of his life, his joy, of his heart. Your steps were very hesitant and quivered a lot, though it was unnoticeable to your kabukis and everyone else. Behind the stoic, unexpressed face you posed, there was great grief and tears ready to come out at any second. Your heart felt so heavy and astronomical. Do you want to visit Kayaka and the others before we arrive to the next pillar's estate? Maya asked with a soft voice, looking at you with weak, sad eyes. You didn't reply. You didn't even look at her. Suddenly, you stopped walking. Kojo, who was watching you from afar, hummed with confusion. You turned your heel and ran at Kojo. Kojiro! Your eyes stone with tears. You were blushing intently and your lips quivered. Your legs felt like they were going to give it any second. To hell with Tanjiro, you thought. Forget about Zenitsu. Just as you stumbled over the uneven ground, you leapt into the yellow-haired man's arms, enveloping your own around his neck. Choose your own love. Choose your own life. You are the one who decides. It is your life after all. His eyes widened as yours shut close. You kissed him. You broke the kiss a little after. Kojo staring at you with great blush and wide eyes. Yen, does this mean that you... Yes. You cried happily. I love you, Kojiro. I love you. Kojiro's vision began to blur, tears quickly gathering. He then gave you the brightest of smiles, and while crying, kissed you back again. About time, you two. Senjiro groaned, yet he seemed quite happy. Way to go, Agima! Senjiro cheered. Both Kojiro and you saw the two males that stood in the house's doorstep, watching the wholesome and cute scene that Kojiro and you just displayed. Senjiro, you're too young to see this kind of thing! You panicked, quickly shooting away from Kojiro, yet he held your hand, so you wouldn't go too far. Hanawa-chan! Oh, Hanawa! A childish voice shouted. You looked to your side. A small dot of black quickly grew closer. Now, being a black-haired kid with poorly sewn leather hori. Kayaka! You exclaimed, your happiness in your voice. Surprise! Kayaka shouted, leaping forward and clinging to your neck. Did you miss me? Did I surprise you? I miss you lots. I missed you too, my little sunshine. You giggled, hugging him, and carefully setting him down. Is that the hori that Inosuke made for you? It's, very cute. It's not cute, it's amazing, Kayaka corrected. Right, amazing. You nodded, still smiling. Is that Kayaka? He seems really fun, Senjiro said, smiling a little. Kayaka's eyes vanished as soon as he heard Senjiro's voice. He glanced around until he saw Senjiro. Who's he? Kayaka asked coldly, pointing at Senjiro. This is Kojiro's younger brother, Senjiro Rengoku. You presented, bringing Senjiro to where Kojiro and you were. You then moved aside so Kayaka could properly greet the kid. Senjiro-kun, this is my nephew, Kayaka Hanawa. Adoptive son. The blackhead interrupted you, crossing his arms. He glanced at Kojiro with a frown before looking at Senjiro once again. Your brother looks strong. He's actually a pillar. Senjiro spoke shyly, yet with a great pride. Oh, yeah? Well, Yin's a pillar, too, Kayaka retorted. She's a god pillar, and barely at the age of 16. Beat that. My brother is a flame pillar, though he's been a pillar for a while now, Senjiro said, a little less shy. Flame pillar? Sounds kind of cool. Kayaka hummed, staring at Kojiro up and down. He then nodded. Yep, Yin, you can marry him. Kayaka! You scoffed, yet the infant didn't care. My brother eats a lot, so it will be difficult for her to cook for him, Senjiro said. Senjiro! Kojiro tried to speak, yet he was too embarrassed to do so. Instead, he covered his face with the back of his hands and looked away. Yinny's also eats a lot, too, Kayaka said with a nod. She likes fish. My brother likes fish, too. Senjiro smiled with awe. He then looked at Kojiro. Maybe you should marry Yin after all. Kojiro's face reddened intensely, and so did yours. Would you look at the time? You smiled nervously, holding Kayaka by his hands and beginning to walk away. I'm deeply grateful for what you've done for these past few days. May the gods be with you and protect you. Safe travels, Kojiro blurted out, still blushing and nervous. Goodbye, Kojiro-san. Senjiro-san. I'll write you lots, all right? Oops, that was Kayaka. Kayaka, farewelled happily. The blackhead then beamed at me. I like my new brother a lot. Kayaka! Sorry that this chapter kind of got a little sad, but then it had a happy ending at the end. But how are we gonna tell Tanjiro this? Or is Yin gonna have a little harem? But anyways, we have a Taisho era secret. Kojiro's favorite food is actually sweet potatoes. His side dish is always being fish. Before arriving home, Kanjo asked every person that crossed his path how to properly confess to someone. He is now banned from a few stores and streets thanks to that.